Anytime you're ready. Should the government redistribute its citizens' wealth?
Only for taxes to help somebody who's fallen through the cracks, which is what we are doing on certain high-risk individuals and so forth. But the best way for people to enjoy the capitalistic pie is to participate in the marketplace.
So we shouldn't redistribute wealth unless it's for indigents or like the
I think
what did Reagan call it? Recall the floor, the hammock, or not the hammock, but
well, I think for people who've fallen through the cracks, we have made some decisions on that, and we can do that through the tax system. As you know, there's a lot of charities that are tax deductible that do that. Local governments participate in it, and certainly the federal government does.
But should the government redistribute the citizens' wealth to the people that fell through the cracks, the indigents, the poor people? Let's call them poor people.
Well, if you look at our Medicaid program or say SNAP program, there is a certain redistribution going on right now.
Right, because
and I think that the debate on
recipients don't pay federal income tax, and then the money comes from the federal income tax.
Some of the recipients pay federal income tax.
Very little. In order to qualify that, they can't pay very much.
Well, what is your central question?
Oh, I'm just wanting to know
because if you look at the federal assistance programs, that is an income redistribution.
Right. So Medicaid. So would you be in favor of Medicaid or against it?
Medicaid, I think, does have a role. It is, as any other federal programs, I'm sure there's efficiencies that you can get out of it.
So generally you're against the redistribution of wealth, but you have some exceptions, like in the case of Medicaid, right?
I think in terms of the discussion on redistribution for programs that are designed for high-risk individuals, I think that is somewhat settled. I think what people want is to make sure that the tax burden is not too high and that the programs are run efficiently. And for people who can get away from those programs, we all want to make sure that they have the incentive to do so and the opportunity to do so.
So are you against farm subsidies?
I think there are a lot of farm subsidies that should be on the table.
In other words, we should have some farm subsidy. That's redistribution of wealth, right?
It is redistribution of wealth,
but
I think you can put that on the table. The idea behind the farm subsidies,
they didn't fall through the cracks, so they're not indigents, right?
Well, but as you know, the original intent of the farm subsidies is to guarantee a cheap and abundant food supply. So they're targeted for that, the same way a lot of tax programs are. In terms of a tax reform that moves us away from a system that picks and chooses winners and losers, I think there's a lot of consensus on that.
So what about foreign aid? There they tax American citizens and they send the money to foreigners. Are you in favor of that redistribution of wealth?
If it keeps our allies in a position to defend themselves and is a better investment than sending troops over there, then foreign aid can be proactive as part of the national security picture.
So when it's defense spending, you're in favor of it. If it's not defense spending, then you're not in favor of it. For example, the $3 billion we give to Egypt, for example, or how many billion, I don't know now.
Well, if you look at foreign aid,
spending, or that would be foreign aid,
it can be proactive to keep peace in a region, but it also can be reactive if there's a disaster that takes place. Americans are generous people. After the Haiti earthquake, for example, we sent money down there.
Right, but in the case of Egypt, do we have to send money to Egypt in order for us to be safe for our?
I think you can put any foreign aid you want on the table for scrutiny, and I think it should be looked at every year as part of the budget. Too many problems with the budget, as you know, is that programs are renewed year after year without a good look. So I think any program should be subject to just annual scrutiny.
But does our national security require us to give money to Egypt, for example?
The money to Egypt, I think, actually started out under the Carter administration, and it was part of the Camp David Accord, and it has continued. I think that the president,
once they started, it goes forever, right?
Well, I think it's proper for the president to look at it and to Congress every year and decide if it's worth it or not.
But do we need to give them all that money in order for us to be safe?
It depends on the risk. I mean,
what's the risk? Who's going to attack us? That's my question. I got a question.
Instability in the region gives rise to ISIS and extremist groups.
But who's going to attack us if we don't give foreign aid to Egypt? That's what I don't understand.
Part of it is proactive to keep some stability in the area, to keep groups like ISIS or groups that are, say, anti-Israel from moving forward and having conflicts that spill over and do involve us. Sometimes it's better to spend the money over there to keep the problem over there rather than let it spill over to the United States.
So you think that if we didn't give them money, which country would attack us? I can't fathom any country that would attack America. Is there any country in the world that dares attack America?
Well, as you know from some of the Islamic extremists that have gone on, there have been asymmetric attacks on the United States.
There has been no military attack of America, right? No country, there isn't any country that has ever attacked.
It depends on your view, and it depends on your view.
Which country has attacked America? Which country?
Well, as you know, ISIS is the Islamic State of the Levant, and they would attack America. So I mean, I'm not. What is it? What is it that you're angry about? You need to tell me where you're heading with this. If your question is, I mean, I realize this is an I gotcha situation here. So,
did I get you?
well, you haven't gotten me.
Okay.
But I know that's where you're heading. So I just want to make. But if your question is, should foreign aid, or public assistance, or corporate welfare be put on the table? Of course it should be.
But put on the table is one thing, eliminating is another. That's what I'm trying to get at. Are you in favor of eliminating that corporate welfare, that foreign aid that isn't defense spending?
I think right now it should all be on the table, and we could find lots to eliminate. And groups like yours could probably come up with very constructive ideas.
How long has it been on the table, Congressman? All these things. Forever I've been interviewing. 25 years or 30 years, it's been on the table. And you were mentioned since Carter, right?
And I think that's one reason why you have to have zero-based budgeting every year, so that each agency domestically, each expenditure internationally should have to be defended on a dollar-for-dollar basis annually, or maybe every 3 years, to determine, well, what is it we're getting for this money, and is it a worthwhile investment? Does it promote safety? Does it support education, the general welfare of people? Is it in the interest of the taxpayers? And I think that's absolutely fair. And I think groups like yours, whatever group it is, I don't know, Huntington News or what, but I think groups like yours could come together with groups like mine and discuss this in a civil area and say, you know what, might be something I like, might be something you like, but maybe we should both give, or at least put your microscope on my ideas, and I'm going to put my microscope on your ideas, and we could probably find some stuff to cut.
Well, the major part of this redistribution of wealth is like Medicaid and other programs where they're supporting indigents and people, like you said, that fell through the cracks. Do you think it would be better if the American citizens did their private charity directly instead of using the federal government to do forced charity and tax American citizens, and then to decide who gets the money and how much and why? Wouldn't it be better to have private charity instead of this forced public charity?
I think there might be a legitimate discussion of that, and certainly that's how it was before these programs were created. But I think at this point, nobody is really talking about eliminating most of these generally used programs.
We're talking about it.
Well, you are, but I don't. Where would you go with it? What is your organization? I'm not sure.
Huntington News, yeah. I'm just trying to identify the principle that you should follow, whether you should, the government should redistribute it.
Let me assure you the principle I follow is I'm very frugal. I'm a tightwad. Put this stuff on the table. Make sure we're getting a good investment out of it. Make sure that it's in the interest of the general public, and then I think you can live with these programs, but make them more efficient and more effective.
Okay, well, Congressman, I hope to interview you in 10 years, and I hope it's still not on the table.
I think it should be on the table all the time. Just because
but on the table doesn't do anything. It's always on the table. The problem is getting rid of it. The federal government spending increases every year.
You're an intelligent guy.
Oh, thanks.
What are your ideas? What would you eliminate? You want to eliminate Medicaid?
I would eliminate all redistribution of wealth on principle, because it involves taxing some citizens who haven't violated anybody's rights in order to provide free goods and services for others. I think it's a total lack of respect for the taxpayer, for the citizens, to take their money by force and then give it to other people for good reasons or bad reasons. I'm in favor of having each citizen be able to decide who to give charity to, who to support in the rest of the world, which farmer he wants to help out or not help out.
And which corporation.
And which corporation.
And which foreign country.
And get rid of all that stuff and go back to the Founding Fathers' original vision, where we had a limited government, it was very small, and we didn't have all this profligate spending. How about that? Is that a good pitch?
I think all that is good discussion. I don't think it's practical public policy at the moment.
Well,
but let me say this. The best way to get there is zero-based budgeting.
Okay, I'm all in favor of zero. I'm all in favor of zero.
And I'll tell you one other thing.
What about the proposals? Like Rand Paul made a proposal to reduce the budget, reduce federal spending. By 1%, you remember the penny plan?
Yeah, and Marcia Blackburn has too, and I think
so that's a good start.
I think that's a worthy discussion.
We're spending too much money.
Yeah,
once you spend it, you got to tax it or inflate the currency or borrow it. It's once it's spent.
Here's where I'm optimistic.
Oh, okay.
It's unsustainable right now. The path that we are on is absolutely, and I am confident that if you get somebody like Ted Cruz, who would be to the federal budget what Uber was to public conveyance.
Why hasn't Ted Cruz emphasized this more? And I think
I think because the press is enjoying the spitting contest between Rubio and Trump. And I would never say you're part of that press, but I think the reality is
no, I'm not. I condemn that every day. I think that's horrible. I mean, this is degraded debate ad hominem attacks, insulting people, calling people names. That's the worst.
With you, and that's why I'm proud Ted Cruz has not been doing it, because Ted Cruz has been going on substance, and to his credit, John Kasich as well. You don't hear them attacking each other, but you do on the other side. I got to go find the radio. But
well, Congressman, it was great. I appreciate the interview, and we need representatives like yourself who are willing to do the back and forth and explain their views, what they think, why they think it.
Well, I think it makes.
I congratulate you on that.
I'm the only conservative who does the Bill Maher show, so
okay.
I don't mind it.
Take care.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.